As dawn bled into dusk, he stepped into the labyrinth, an apprentice architect seeking the lost center of a legendary maze. He was eager to prove himself, but with every step, the apprentice felt the weight of ages pressing down. For this was no ordinary maze. Within the shadow-choked corridors of the labyrinth, the air trembles with anticipation and forgotten sorrow. Light flickers across stone walls, painting shifting shapes where memories coiled just out of reach. Each gesture from the maze, an invitation to lose oneself. A chill wind whispered through the passages, carrying the scent of dust and something faintly metallic, like dried blood. He paused, listening. Was it his imagination, or did the silence itself recoil at his intrusion? Or were the footsteps he heard only his own? Heavy, relentless, they pressed closer, blurring the divide between hunter and hunted. As he ventured deeper into the maze, the walls seemed to lean in, their rough surfaces pressing against his skin like accusing fingers. The apprentice shook off the unsettling sensation, reminding himself that he was the hunter here, the one armed with sunlight and steel. Yet with every turn, the oppressive stillness amplified his unease, whispering doubts he couldn't shake. Time unravels within these walls, suspending all certainty as fear and wonder. And the apprentice's heart hammered against his ribs, each thud echoing the approaching footsteps. His breaths quickened, mirroring the urgency of his steps as he raced through the labyrinth. The air grew thick, heavy, with a suffocating stillness that pressed against him like a shroud. He pushed on, compelled by some unseen force. And then he saw it, a flicker of movement at the end of a passage, a fleeting glimpse of something dark and sinuous, just beyond his sight. Was it the Minotaur? Did it sense his presence, or was it merely a figment of his fear-addled imagination? Each step brought him closer to the heart of the maze and the encroaching darkness. The labyrinth is more than stone. The apprentice realized it is memory, myth, and madness, a place where the boundaries of reality fray and the very stones themselves seem to hold their breath, waiting for him to unearth their silent secrets. The silence became his tormentor, amplifying the pounding of his heart, the rasp of his breath, the scrape of his sandals on the ancient stone. Was the labyrinth testing him, toying with his resolve like a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble? His hand tightened around the hilt of his sword, a meager comfort in this echoing tomb. Memories flickered at the edge of his vision, tantalizingly out of reach. They were not his. Were these the echoes of the lost souls who had entered the maze before him, each with hopes and dreams and a will to survive? Or were they fragments of the labyrinth's own psyche, a desperate attempt to retain a shred of humanity in the face of unspeakable horrors? A low growl reverberated through the maze, sending shivers down his spine. The footsteps were closer now, heavier, more purposeful. Was the Minotaur upon him? The growl echoed, seeming to slither through the passages, coiling around him like a living thing. It wasn't the sound of anger, nor was it a roar of defiance. It was a sound of despair, of utter hopelessness. In the stifling embrace of the labyrinth, his senses on edge, he strained to hear over the pounding of his own heart. The footsteps faltered, then resumed, their rhythm unwavering. Hope surged through him. Perhaps the beast had sensed his approach and was fleeing, or was it returning, drawn by the scent of fear and mortality? The air grew colder, draining the warmth from his bones, as if the labyrinth itself was a living, breathing entity, reacting to his presence. The growl rumbled again, closer now, vibrating in his chest. Was the Minotaur upon him? Had it cornered him, relishing in his terror? Or was it still out there, pacing restlessly, forever trapped? Panic threatened to consume him, but he fought it down, clinging to the last vestiges of his courage. As the darkness deepened, he quickened his pace, his breath catching in his throat. The labyrinth was alive, and he was nothing but a trespasser in its domain. He stumbled, his ankle twisting beneath him. Pain flared, sharp and sudden, and he cried out, his voice echoing cruelly in the vast emptiness. The footsteps outside, had it heard him? Did the Minotaur pick up the scent of fear and blood, or was it merely a figment of his imagination, a manifestation of his terror? With a grunt, he forced himself to his feet, ignoring the throbbing pain in his ankle. The labyrinth offered no mercy. He could feel its ancient eyes upon him, judging, waiting. Every creak of the stones, every sigh of the wind through the passages was a reminder of his isolation, his vulnerability. And then he saw it, a sliver of moonlight filtering through a crack in the ceiling, illuminating a single word carved into the stone above it. In that moment, the labyrinth seemed to hold its breath, and he felt a surge of determination. He would find the center. He would uncover the labyrinth's secrets, even if it meant facing his deepest fears. For what was life without a purpose, without hope? The growl echoed again, closer now, a deep guttural sound that resonated in his bones. The Minotaur was near, and he knew it, could feel its presence like a tangible thing, a predator closing in on its prey. Adrenaline surged through him, quickening his pace. He had to keep moving, keep going until he found the center, the heart of the labyrinth, where answers awaited and the Minotaur's reign of terror might finally end. With renewed determination, he pressed on, his footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. Each turn, each twist of the maze brought him closer to the beast, to his fate. He could feel its hot, fetid breath on his neck, hear the rasp of its voice in his ear, smell the stench of decay and death. And yet he didn't run. He stood his ground, meeting the Minotaur's gaze with his own, refusing to be cowed, refusing to surrender. And then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The footsteps faltered, then stopped. The growls subsided, leaving behind an eerie silence. He stood there, his sword raised, his body trembling with exertion and fear. And when he lowered his weapon, he realized the truth. He was not the hunter. He was the prey. He had walked into the labyrinth seeking to conquer it, to defeat the monster within. But in doing so, he had become the monster. The footsteps echoed through the labyrinth, growing louder, more insistent. He turned, and there it was, the heart of the maze, a circle of stones that seemed to pulse with power. But as he stepped into the center, the illusion shattered. The stones were cold, lifeless. There was no magic here, no Minotaur, only the echo of his own footsteps, mocking, relentless. He had come seeking answers, but the labyrinth had only questions. Questions of purpose, of obsession, of the thin line between creation and destruction. Who truly built this maze, he wondered, and why? What dark purpose did it serve? The footsteps continued, echoing in his ears long after he left the labyrinth. He emerged blinking into the daylight, the maze behind him, a looming shadow. The world seemed strangely quiet after the cacophony of the labyrinth. But as he walked away, the footsteps began again, faint at first, then louder, more insistent. He turned, and there it was, the maze, stretching into the distance, beckoning him back. The footsteps grew louder, more urgent, and he knew he couldn't outrun them, couldn't hide from them. He was the Minotaur now, forever trapped in the labyrinth of his own making. The labyrinth was a part of him now, its darkness intertwined with his soul. He looked back at the city, at a life he once knew, and felt a pang of regret, of longing. But it was too late. The maze had claimed him, and he was its prisoner. As night fell, he ran, not knowing where he was going, why he was running, except that he couldn't stop. The footsteps pounded in his ears, drumming a relentless tattoo on his sanity. The labyrinth had won. The Minotaur had claimed another victim, and as the darkness enveloped him, he knew that he would never escape, that he was doomed to wander these endless corridors forever.